Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review for Sword Art Online Alicization Season 1 that I watched on Toonami. So, I overall enjoyed this, but it still has Sword Art Online problems. They do a good job of trying to address certain ones, mainly how OP Kirito can be. They pretty much put him into a point where if they didn't do some kind of situation that made kind of sense of why he would be kind of nerfed, he'd be essentially able to kind of solve any kind of virtual problem. So I do give him props for doing that. However, there are still various pacing issues where, in my opinion, certain things could have taken a longer time to develop and are instead condensed down and just kind of like rushed through. Also, we get the whole kind of sexual assault coming back as a storyline because it wouldn't be Sword Art Online without that for some odd fucking reason because it just has to be overused. But the issue comes into effect in that it was actually being used for something integral to the plot to kind of explain things going on in the world, and it was censored. And censored pretty crappily, I might add. I'm like, if people are going to watch this, just let it speak for itself. If you're going to have problems with that, don't watch it. This also extends to other scenes, mainly towards the end of the series, well, the end of the season, that are also censored for bumfuck knows what reason. To be honest with you, it didn't really involve sex and instead involved more violence because reasons. So that really took me out of it and really kind of was messing with the information that we were needing to get from what's going on in this world. So let us start at the beginning. We are done with the whole Gun Gale Online situation, and we see that Kirito and Asuna are being happy. Asuna's kind of like trying to figure out what's going on. Kirito's like, hey, you know what? I'm probably going to do a lot of stuff with VR and all that, so I'm going to probably go to America to go to university. Why don't you come with me? And pretty much, yeah, of course. He also is talking about how he is working at this company part-time rat and helping them develop this whole new dive machine that is a soul diver and deals with flux lights. I'm like, okay, that's interesting. Have to see how that goes. That becomes important because as they're having this great and beautifully romantic conversation, the last dude from this Death Gun guild from Einkrag comes and is like, I'm gonna kill Kirito! And stabs him with poison. Yeah. So, this is essentially trying to get us into a situation where Kirito has to be put into the soul dive machine to heal himself. Granted, we have to go a roundabout kind of way with that because Asuna is trying to figure out what's going on with Kirito, and Kirito gets juked around hospitals and shit, so she and the intrepid Scooby gang of people that are just in there for fan service because they don't really do much more because it focuses more on what's going on with Kirito. And they do find out what's going on. She hooks up with Kayaba's ex-girlfriend because she's an expert on the field as well, and they go to this floating fortress for Wrath's place, which is where Kirito's at and plugged into the soul dive machine. Now, there are two stories that are going on here. But not really. Why do I say that? Because so little time is put on with Asuna and the outside world that I barely call it a fucking story. It comes in at the end with the biggest cliffhanger that you could have seen coming with like 80s and 90s TV shows, which are like, alright. The rest is Kirito being in the world that has been created by Wrath and their whole spiel. And we find out that Kirito's been doing the dives in there. He's been going as a little kid. He doesn't remember anything because they lock those memories in his flux lights. And evidently, he's been hanging around in this town of Rulid with, like, this girl Alice and this dude Yugioh, and they're little kids doing their playing and everything. They go into this cave and they accidentally go into the dark territory. Well, Alice accidentally crosses over the dark territory and gets taken by the Integrity Knights and poops off. And we're like, what the fuck's going on here? And we see that the main head dude starts explaining that they essentially want to make full-fledged AI, and that they're trying to do this with artificially making souls and like copying fluff bites from babies and doing all this. And this is the world that Kirito is in now. And that they just want, they're testing and putting them in all these situations to see if they can tell the difference if they're AI or not. Because they actually have a dude that they copied his Flucklight, and they talk with him, and he starts freaking out, and that was actually one of the episodes that got screwed up. And I'm like, what the fuck's going on? And it was important because it shows that you have to work a little bit to make sure that these Flucklights and these AIs work properly. But I'm like, okay, you're essentially trying to make robot slaves. They're not gonna like that. I understand that you're trying to save soldiers and everything, but you're just taking, like, baby brains, copying them in a digital world, and then trying to make them into artificial intelligence to kill people. If in any step and at any point in that logic that I've explained that you don't go, that sounds fucking insane, stupid, and evil, congratulations, you don't give a fuck. Ooh. So, since he is not really, since Addison is like, that ain't cool, we then keep going through, and we see these little bits and pieces spattered throughout, but the main thing is we see Kirito pop up. He's back in Rulewood. Yugioh's still trying to cut down this tree, and he's like, okay, gets pretty much the spiel of the world, helps him get through cutting down that tree, and he needed to do this to get Yugioh out of the town so he could pick a new calling. They both decide to be swordsmen and go off. And then there's a 2-year thing as we find out they got to the central city and find out that since Alice was taken away, they need to go to the central tower to figure out what's going on. It's like, alright, cool. Main way to do that is to try and win a tournament as swordsmen to become an integrity knight. I'm like, okay, that's pretty sweet. Thing is, that has a nice setup and premise. This is Sword Art Online. Pacing and everything, and it's like, screw that! So, we get in, and they pretty much get into head classmates. They get into a kerfuffle with these two other classmates who are nobles and think they can do whatever they want. And evidently, because of the way the rules are worked out, they can do that. They try to rape the pages of Kirito and Yugioh, and this is where we get to the episode where it is censored to crap. I'm like, I don't know what's going on. Yugioh's like, fuck this shit, and decides to go against the taboo code and chops off one of the dude's arms. This, of course, freaks out a code thing in his eye, and that blows the fuck up. Yeah, his eye blows up. That's interesting. Of course, Kirito comes in. Yugioh's like, I broke the taboo code. I'm like, they were going to rape people. I'm thinking good. I told them to stop. They weren't fucking stopping. I granted, because the censoring's going on, it's like, well, this is kind of taking away what's going on in this scene and what's trying to be explained. But continuing on, Kirito is able, of course, he is not burdened with this taboo code because he's a dude, he's a human, and he's just not implanted with any of those things. He still has to follow certain rules, and he still has certain things from, like, other SAO-related games, but they're not completely unlocked at this point. And he stops Yugioh from getting killed, and chops off the other dude's arms, and he's freaking out. He's like, ah! And goes complete, he kind of wigs out like the other AI that we had seen of the other dude. Of course, this one freaking head's like, taboo code's been broken, people fucking freaking out. Well, because the one noble who only had his one arm chopped off, ran from the room and, I guess, tried to get assistance. I don't know how you even kind of, you would have to explain what was going on. It's like, yeah, you have 4 other people, and granted, 2 of them, one of them killed someone, the other one chopped your arm off. I understand you can have a conflict of interest there, but you're like, okay, why did they act this way? That dude lost his eyeballs, so that meant he had to do something that was against the taboo code. Why the fuck do you have to do that? No taboo index. It's like, alright, but this says that they broke the taboo index and they send an integrity knight and it's Alice! It's like, the fuck? But, of course, they get taken off and they're like, this is fucking stupid, and break out of the cell, and Alice had sent an integrity knight to kind of guard him, and they're like fighting him, but they're like, wait a minute, aren't you this one dude? And starts like fucking with his memories. He's like, I'm not that dude, but he is that dude, and this like thing pops out. He's like, I'm going nuts, and okay, but other integrity knights kind of pop up, and they kind of run and get into this other place. And we get the kind of lowdown of what was going on, kind of both inside and outside at the same point by this cardinal chick. Evidently, this one woman administrator, who's as she's known now, was like messing around with sacred arts and was pretty much using them to make herself into a god, pretty much. Keep herself youthful, get power, everything. And she evidently got into the core of the system and fucked with it, and it was, of course, more than her memory could handle, so she got a little girl, and this is the cardinal system. She was sharing memories, and, of course, this made a duplicate, well, not a duplicate, but an equal. Cardinal system then ran and pretty much set herself into the library for 200 years. So now she's trying to help Kirito and Yugioh take out the administrator and help out because evidently the Flucklight, like, goblin people that they fought from the Dark Territory, those are Flucklight baby people as well, and they're going to come and invade the realm of the humans, and they're not set up for that. Even though they've got the Integrity Knights who can do all these badass, whoop-ass things, the administrator is stupid and kind of fucked herself. But, as we come to find out, she don't give a lot of shits. So, kind of similar to what happened in Aincrad, we've got this cool tower, and you're like, hey, this could take a while. Nope. They pretty much have some cool fights, of course, between Integrity Knights and pretty much trying to figure out what's going on with the Axiom Church, trying to get them to amend their ways. And some of them succeeding, some of them not. And they're able to get to the point where they fight Alice. Now, granted, this gets a little bit tricky in that Alice and Kirito are fighting, and then they get sucked out of a fucking wall, and Yugioh kind of gets fucked for a little bit. So, Kirito pretty much gives her the lowdown on what's going on. She's like, okay, I kind of get that. I mean, there's a little bit more in there, but not really much. That's the gist of it. He gives her the lowdown because they get to a point in the wall. It's like, wait a minute, these are minions of the Dark Territory. They fight. It's like, that's not kind of cool for the Axiom Church shit to do, and especially the administrator. And she starts thinking about it and bursts her eyeball as well. Except this time, Yugioh's got his healed. She has not at this moment. So she's going around with an eye patch like a pirate knight. That would have been cooler to see, actually. But we continue on, and they're able to get back up inside of the tower. Yugioh tries to go after the administrator, but fails because he is trying to get the Alice back that he knew, but he doesn't see that Alice anymore. And he wants that kind of love and attention, but he sees that he might have to fight with Kirito to kind of get that. And, of course, the administrator uses poisoned honey words and makes him into an integrity knight. That I kind of like them kind of diving into Yugioh a little bit and kind of showing how easy it is to fall for this manipulative bullshit. Though if you take it, she's pretty much naked throughout most of the entirety of what's going on. Which is kind of weird because the way it's done, it's fine and didn't have to be censored until it gets into the later bits. But they're able to get back up. They fight, and, well, they fight Yugioh, and, of course, he's kind of being a little bit messed up, but he's able to regain his senses, and then they fight this Chudelkin dude who's a senator, and evidently senators are the monitoring system. And they're able to take his ass out even though he turned into a giant fire goblin thing. Problem here is, this is where we start to see more of the censoring again. Mainly when he gets chopped and he's like bleeding all of his blood. like, we hadn't really seen a lot of censoring of the violence before until we got to the sexual assault portion, and that and the violence were kind of censored in one. Now we've just got this violence censored. It's like, alright, that dude's dead. Not completely yet. But then they pretty much get manhandled by the administrator as she's pontificating upon the awesomeness of her plan and how Jesus, how she's pretty much just going to her plan to fight the Dark Territory is to turn people into swords and sword golems. She's like, I don't need to fight you guys, and sets a sword golem on him. Like, she's been transforming people into swords. And this is kind of where I started to kind of lose it. I mean, I've still been enjoying it, but I get to a point, I'm like, your plan is to turn people into swords. What? Oh, okay. And then, of course, the Cardinal's like, you guys are gonna get fucked up. And pretty much she gets fucked up as well, but and her dying portion turns Yugioh into a sword, which was stupid as shit. And he, like, pretty much blasted through and took out the sword golem, tried to go after the administrator, and got chopped in half. And then turned back into Yugioh for some reason, and was still chopped in half. Like, okay. And, of course, Alice gets kind of fucked up as well, so it's just, Kirito, and, of course, he gets a power-up from Yugioh by dual-wielding his swords, turns into his usual kind of Sword Art Online Avatar kind of costume, and starts fighting the Administrator. I'm like, yeah, this is a pretty good one, and Administrator's kind of kicking his ass a little bit, using other kind of Sword Art Online skills and everything, and she has one arm at this point, and she turned the other arm into a sword, but, of course, Kirito takes a kind of hit, loses one of his arms, but is able to severely damage Administrator, and she says that, well, even if I absorbed everything around here, it's not going to help me out. And so she decides, I'm going to just get the fuck out of this world. Tries to use a console and is, like, going up, but, hey, that little Chudokan kind of motherfucker's still alive. And says, no, we shall be one. And then goes up and blows up and kills her. I'm like, what in the fuck is going on? We got a dude turning into a sword, fighting another sword golem, and then the little dude who's pretty much bled all of his own blood pops up conveniently to kill the administrator. I'm like, damn it. I was kind of looking forward to seeing other kinds of ways that the administrator would be fought. And granted, I'm glad that she's dead, but the way she died was just so... I'm like, what? Alright. That's not even the half of it. We haven't been outside the real world for a little while, and we see that Kirito goes to a console and pretty much tries to figure out what's going on. And, of course, he also says a nice goodbye to Yugioh as Yugioh dies, and he goes with little Alice as they go to the afterlife or whatnot. And, of course, he's, like, typing in. He gets to the outside world, gets in contact with the head honcho dude. Now, evidently, for some fucked up reason, they're under attack by a shadowy organization that we haven't heard shit from. It's like, what? And they're evidently going and trying to cut, like, the main power. It's like, Kirito, you gotta get to the altar in the Dark Territory. And you gotta log out now, because if they do this, they're gonna fry your brain. And he gets kind of, like, hit by the blast, and that's where it ends. I'm like, that was the shittiest cliffhanger to end this. The more I talk about it, the more I'm like, God. All of it is like potential, and then they just do the most SAO thing ever, and just continue doing their stuff. And granted, there were some things that kind of helped out. Kirito not being as OP and actually working and having to actually fear for his life and all that, but then the pacing and the potential for certain things just goes out the window. I thought we could potentially got the tournament arc to get to this tower or whatnot for them to become Integrity Knights. That went out the window. We'd get more time to actually go through the Integrity Knights because it seems like there were a lot of levels, and that just kind of breeze through, and there could have been more development on the sake of Administrator and her kind of plans, because kind of boiling it down to its simplistic tones, it's like, okay. I mean, you barely had enough memory space to hold up what was going on in this world. What's going to happen? What are you going to try and find out in the real world? That's, you know? And you're essentially like a god in that world. You're not really going to be a god in this one. Unless you find out that it's for some reason a program and you're able to hack into it. But we haven't seen that yet. So, I enjoyed it, but there were a lot... I enjoyed it for the things that kind of improved on the series, but I'm more like, oh, come on, people. I'm more skewed towards the thing of you just keep making the same mistakes and not learning from them. Now, granted, Yugioh was kind of an interesting character. Alice was kind of an interesting character, fighting against an indoctrination and all that kind of effect and trying to kind of move on from it. I'm like, okay, cool. You got the potential for these things, and I've just come to terms with that they're not really going to pay them off. You might get a little something out of it, but you're not going to get a lot out of it. So, I would almost recommend trying to find the Japanese version, but I only say that because of the censorship issue, but I don't know if it has been affected through streaming services, if it's been censored on its way here. I don't know. The censorship issue really is fucking stupid. So, I would only recommend this to you if you were a diehard Sword Art Online fan. If you are interested in Sword Art Online, you probably like this better than like kind of the first Sword Art Online and the second Sword Art Online. If you really like Sword Art Online, just watch Gun Gale Alternative. Otherwise, there's not really good enough character development. There's some good fight scenes and everything, but there's probably other anime out there that you could watch for it. So those are my opinions on the anime. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.